Welcome, adventurers! What's going on, guys? My name is Cody. This is Taking 20, a channel about all things role-playing games. And today I want to talk to you guys about cementing your world, helping breathe some life into them so that your players can really become immersed in them and create some really awesome stories. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. Alright guys, so let's talk about concreting your world, cementing your world to make it feel like a real place, a real breathable world that your players can go play and explore in, really create some immersion. The first thing that I have for you is something I'm going to repurpose, okay? This is actually something from Brandon Sanderson's Rules of Magic. This is his first law of magic for writing fantasy. And if you guys don't know who Brandon Sanderson is, he's a well-known fantasy author. He's done a ton of stuff. I'll put some links down in the description below where you guys can go check out his wiki and stuff like that. But in essence, his first law of magic is this. The less that your reader or audience understands about your magic system and how it works in your world, the more sense of wonderment that they're going to have about it. Conversely, the more that you tell an audience about your magic system and show them how it works and what its limitations are, the more that they're going to be able to solve problems with that in a satisfying way. Now, really, this is a rule for writing, okay? But the concept is very, very applicable to Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop gaming in general because it is a collaborative storytelling experience. So if we take a look at this, right, and we're thinking, okay, the more we tell our players about magic and make them understand what its limits are, the more that this place will lose its sense of wonder, the more that it will concrete and cement itself as a real place, a place that makes sense, that is understandable to them, and that they can feel like they understand, they could go visit. All right, guys, so let's take a look at an example. Since you guys love examples so much and holding me to every single word from them, this is something that I did in my most recent Storm King's Thunder campaign that you guys can catch here on YouTube. And if you guys have watched that campaign, you'll notice that the players from the beginning of the campaign, at least where it actually picks up at, to the end, were constantly being spied on, right? They went through several different phases where people seemed to show up and know things about them that they should not know about them. And this led the players at the time to a little bit of a sense of wonderment, right? They didn't understand. How does this person know that? How does this person know where we went? How does this person know who we talked to? How does this person know what we said? And so they had this big sense of wonderment. But I kept reinforcing this all the way through the campaign. And eventually, when they received an item to protect them from scrying, which is something that I had kind of mentioned to them before, hey, maybe you're being scryed on, that's when they got it. That's when it really clicked with them. And you could see a shift from that point in the campaign where the world was kind of had this sense of wonderment to the magic system, right? And suddenly, whoosh, it concreted up and it made sense. It cemented for them on how the rules work. Once they knew that, that's when they started using those same things to start solving problems. It is exactly that simple. So concrete your rules, foreshadow things to players. Let them know that there are some things that exist through NPCs and overhearing conversations that maybe they don't have a full grasp on, especially if you have new players. Continue to be consistent with how those things are presented to define rules for how that magic works, and that will in and of itself concrete your world and make your players understand it's not just a fantasy world that I don't really get. They'll start believing that it is a place with a fine set of rules that they can bend and use to their own advantage. And I do want to mention that all of these rules of magic absolutely apply to technology if you're playing a science fantasy or science fiction game, or if you're playing a superheroes game. Don't get too caught up because I'm presenting this as a rule of magic. These things are absolutely applicable to your game, regardless of what kind of style it is. The second tip I have for you guys to cement your world is to make things change, right? Because the world is ever changing, and your game world should be too. One of the big ways that you can do this very easily is weather. Talk about seasons. Talk about festivals through your calendar. Have a calendar. You know, Matthew Colville did a wonderful video on making a calendar for your game and that he wouldn't run a game at all without a calendar. I'm not saying that you have to go so far as to create from scratch a calendar that makes sense to you. That's probably a lot of work, but you could still refer to seasons in your game of, you know, the winter, the spring, summer, and that in and of itself should be plenty to give your players a sense of change throughout the campaign, of progression to make this place seem real. Also, guys, don't be afraid to change up your places and locations. If your players are going back to a town, a village, or whatever, that is a great opportunity for you to include some subtle, small changes, or perhaps big changes, to make it feel like the world is a real place and these players are just a small part in it. This is very easy to do if your players have had any type of impact at all or done any type of major quest for a quest giver or, you know, somebody important in the town. This is a great opportunity to do that. So have new construction going on, have a new statue raised, have the road signs been painted over, or have a festival there in honor of something that has occurred recently that maybe the players had an impact on. This is a great chance for you to breathe some life into your world by making your places change also. And finally, guys, don't forget the small things, okay? Sometimes it's the little things, the little details that can make a world really come to life and feel like a real place. A great example of this is actually from the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. If I remember that correctly, it may be the DMG, but I really think it's the SCAG, where they talk about giving your currency a name. And they also talk about giving different currencies in different places. So instead of just having generic gold, generic silver, generic platinum, if you make the currency a part of your world and say you find 10 dragons and you find whatever and you find whatever, oh, that came from this place. I wonder why this treasure has been buried over from this city that's on the other end of the continent. Things like that, those little small details can make the difference in making your world feel real or not. So don't forget the small things. So there you go, guys. There's my thoughts on a few different tips to help cement your world and make it feel real. What do you guys think? What are some ways that all of us as Dungeon Masters and Game Masters can cement our worlds? I'd love to hear your tips and tricks down below. Last week, we had a great discussion. Not everybody agreed with me, which is totally okay, but I'd love to see some discussion on this topic as well. I think it's a pretty important one, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. Every week I'll be putting out new videos on DM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.